Joining us on the Guadalupe Radio Network is Father Eli Lopez. Father Eli is the pastor at All Saints Catholic Church, which is located in the Houston Heights area. And Father Eli is getting ready to celebrate 10 years of his priesthood coming up in June. Father Eli, thank you so much for being here in the studio at KSHJ.
Thank you for inviting me.
Exciting time, of course. The All Saints Catholic community in the Heights area is going to be celebrating on June 6th. Father Eli, give me a little bit of background about you. You had grown up in Houston in a large family. How many brothers and sisters did you have growing up?
Yes, that's correct. I'm a native Houstonian.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the near north side of Houston. Growing up, we attended Holy Name Catholic Church in the near north side. I'm the youngest of 8.
Youngest of 8.
Five
okay.
boys and 3 girls.
Wow.
And so growing up, we attended Holy Name Catholic Church. And then when I was about 6 years old, we moved a little further north, and I attended Christ the King Church.
Okay.
And then as an adult, I moved to the Heights area, and All Saints became my home parish in 2000.
Okay, very good. And so then when did you kind of start to get the inkling that, the priesthood going that direction?
Yeah, so I was not confirmed in high school. So as an adult, I was confirmed, and I was confirmed at All Saints Parish. And after confirmation, the then pastor at the time was Monsignor Adam McCloskey, and he invited me to join the RCIA team. And so I was on the RCIA team for 7 years. And so accompanying people who were entering the Catholic Church and hearing their stories gave me an opportunity to look at my own vocation and to grow deeper in my own faith. And I began to really take my faith seriously and began to look at my own vocation, where God was calling me. But priesthood was never on my radar.
And so then, was there any kind of a suggestion? I know that for a lot of priests, somebody at some point comes along and says, have you ever thought about being a priest?
So Monsignor Adam McCloskey invited me one year to go with him, and he was going with like 10 or 12 parishioners to a silent retreat at the Monastery of Christ in the Desert in New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he invited me in September. He said, hey, I'm planning this retreat next the end of May, beginning of June. There's a group of us from the parish. We're going to be going to Christ in the Desert. It's a monastery, a Benedictine monastery. And it's a 5-day silent retreat. Would you be interested in going? And I said, no.
You were honest. You were like,
I said, no, I'm not interested in going. No. I'd never been on a silent retreat before. And
well, that can seem intimidating, just all silent retreat.
Yes, it seemed intimidating. Yeah. So he asked me in September the first time. And then in December, I remember he said, hey, we still have some spaces available. Would you be interested in going with us on this retreat? I said, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm interested in going. Right. And then when Easter rolled around, Holy Week, he said, hey, we have one spot left. He goes, would you like to go with us? And I said, well, let me see if I can, let me pray about it. Let me see if I can take off from work, and maybe I'll go with you. And sure enough, I prayed about it. I asked at work if I could take off that time, and I ended up going on this retreat with him. And for me, it was an amazing experience. Going for 5 days in silence. The first 24 hours, it takes 24 hours for all the noise to dissipate. And then at this monastery of Christ in the Desert, the monks pray 7 times a day. And so you don't have to participate in all the prayer services. But while I was there that week, I said, if I'm going to be here on this retreat, I'm going to go full-fledged, 100%. And so the first prayers begin like at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you wake up like at 3:30 in the morning, and they pray 7 times a day. And
I've heard that monastery is beautiful, by the way.
It was incredible. It was like a piece of heaven on earth.
Right, because you really get away from all the noise of daily life.
And so my prayer that week, as I was there on retreat, my prayer was, okay, God, I'm a single male. I'm involved in my parish. I feel like I can be doing more. Where is it that you want me to serve? So that was my prayer that whole week, and just really, praying, with the monks, attending all the liturgies, entering into the silence. And so we came back from that retreat. That was in June. And then in December at All Saints Parish, we had what's called the Travel and Chalice, where every week a family would come forward and we'd present them with this chalice to take home, and the family would pray for vocations to the priesthood or religious life. And so I remember one Sunday, it was in December, and a family came forward. We all stand up, the congregation. We're all standing up, praying over this family. The deacon was leading the prayers. And I felt this burning in my heart. And God saying, this is where I'm calling you. This is where I want you to serve. And I had never felt that before. And so it freaked me out. I went home that day. I went home that day, and that evening I remember going online and just looking up vocations and priesthood, and I had a lot of questions, and it was like I'd never felt this way before. And so it eventually led me to the Archdiocese website, the vocations website. And so that Wednesday, I think, I called Monsignor Adam, and I said, Father Adam, I said, I want to share with you what happened to me at Mass on Sunday. And he said, well, just be open to how God is calling you and speaking to you, and just continue to pray about it, but don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I had been at my job almost 20 years. I worked for Al's Formalware here in Houston, and so I was a manager of a store in West University.
So you were well dressed.
Well dressed, yes. And so I've been doing weddings and quinceañeras in a different capacity, and so I prayed about it and kept praying about it and kept thinking about it, but I'd never thought about priesthood before. And so when Lent rolled around in February, at All Saints Parish, we had adoration every Thursday until midnight. And on Thursdays at my job, I worked a 10-hour day. And so I would get off of work, sometimes anywhere between 8 and 10 p.m. And I said, okay, God, if this is really where you're calling me, I need your help. I'm going to go to adoration every week, and I need your help.
You really need God to talk to you.
I was afraid of leaving my job that I've been at for 20 years, but I knew that's not where I was going to stay. I knew
there was something else
God coming up.
Yes. Yeah.
I just didn't have that direction yet.
Yeah.
And so I went to adoration faithfully during Lent every Thursday. I'd have 10-hour days, 11-hour days, but I'd still made it. I mean, every week.
Credit to you for just that, by the way. That's tough, working for 10 hours and then getting over there every time,
And so I, during that time, as I'm going to adoration every week, it was like God placed these different people on my path that opened the door for me or led the way for me to continue my discernment, because I discerned for a couple of years before I applied and was accepted for the Archdiocese.
Very good. Yeah, I love that story, because it sounds like so many of us, sort of kind of resisting or saying, no, I don't want to do this at first, or, God kind of calls us to go on a retreat or do this activity or participate in the church in some way. And at first, there's so many of us that are kind of real hesitant. We're like, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's the right thing for me. Yeah. So that's what I love about your story, is that it's so real and relatable, Father Eli. So the other thing that I like about it is, of course, you were so active in All Saints, and then years later, you're now the pastor of that church. So I can imagine how providential that must feel for you.
Yeah, never in my life did I imagine that I would come back to be the pastor at All Saints Parish. And so it's been a blessing. I've been there July 1st. It'll be 3 years. And it's been, during my 8 years of seminary formation, the parish was very supportive of me. The Knights of Columbus, all the parishioners, and I would go back often, because it was not too far from the seminary. So I was always back at the parish helping out and involved in the parishioners' lives and what have you. So I have a lot of families and friends there in the parish. And so the neighborhood has changed in the last 10 years. That whole area has changed. A lot of people have either moved on or passed away. But there's a lot of new young people moving into the Heights area. So we have a lot of young recent college graduates who have moved to Houston, and they're starting their careers. We have a lot of empty nesters who are moving into the city now that their kids are grown up and gone to college. And then we have a lot of the faithful and older faithful community that are still there. And so it's been a blessing to be able to go back and be the pastor of such a wonderful community.
I guess it's also, like you said, it's a blessing just to be able to get to know these people at that personal level. Because I know All Saints isn't necessarily the biggest church
Right.
in the archdiocese, but I guess that's the good point for you, is that you know all these people by name. You shake their
Right.
hand, you ask about what their family life is going on, and so I'm guessing that's pretty rewarding.
Yes. But also, like my first assignment after ordination, I was assigned to St. Cecilia for my first 2 years. And then from St. Cecilia, I was assigned to Navasota, Christ Our Light. And I had two parishes when I was in Navasota. I had Christ Our Light in Navasota and St. Stanislaus in Anderson. And just in both of those communities, it's been a wonderful, wonderful 10 years of journeying with families. Now it's funny because at All Saints, I've done a couple of weddings for altar servers that I had at my first parish.
That's pretty funny.
And so it's like they come to me, I'm like, "What? You're getting married?"
You're grown.
In my mind, I still see them as kids.
Yeah, you have a mortgage. I don't know. That's pretty.
So
good.
it's pretty amazing to be able to accompany people on these special events in their lives.
Father Eli, you had mentioned before about how important that one silent retreat that you went on in your life there at the monastery in New Mexico. I know, in addition to that, you've taken pilgrimages to other parts of the world, like Europe and the Holy Land. When you go to holy sites like that, maybe churches overseas, what kind of an impact does that have on you, and what kind of an impact do you hear from other people that you may go on the pilgrimage with, maybe going to a spot where, like I said, maybe Christ himself was there, or maybe one of the apostles were there?
Yeah. So when I was in the seminary, I had the opportunity to go to the Holy Land during one of the years when I was in the seminary, and it was an incredible experience. And so while I was there praying and experiencing the whole walking in the footsteps of Jesus, I just felt like a calling, like, when I'm ordained a priest, I want to bring people to the Holy Land to experience this incredible journey. It's a beautiful pilgrimage. When you're in the Holy Land and when you celebrate Mass at the holy sites, the readings pertain to that site. Yeah. And so it's very powerful, very impactful. And so even now, when I'm here at home celebrating Mass, we hear the gospel readings, what have you, and I can imagine and picture, I've been there, I've seen it, and I've spoken to the people that live there and what have you, experienced that. And so it's the pilgrims really appreciate, that going on these pilgrimages and growing in their faith and experiencing the beauty of our Catholic faith around the world.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. So tell me a little bit more about kind of what's on the horizon for All Saints Catholic Church. Any projects, programs in the work that's going on?
Yeah, so when I arrived in 2022, it was after COVID, after the COVID that we've all been through. And so All Saints Parish is one of the oldest parishes in the Archdiocese. And so when I arrived, I inherited a lot of maintenance issues. With the older parish, older buildings, older facilities, we're going to have a lot of maintenance issues. And so in the past 3 years, that's what we've been doing, just maintaining the facilities.
Right.
And
it's a historic church. So.
Yes. Yeah. And so last year, we had the derecho storm, and then we also had a couple of hurricanes in the past couple of years. So we had some damage done. Water was coming in from the outside. And so we had to and so the inside the walls were cracking and stuff. So we had to have restoration done, seal the bricks on the outside, and then come inside and scrape the walls and reseal the walls on the inside. So we just completed that project.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so that started in January, and it was completed in Holy Week.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I don't know if that was by design, but what a blessing.
Yes, yes. We were trying to get it done before Holy Week, and they were able to complete it. And so, continuing on with our vision for the future of the parish, so I formed a strategic planning committee to help me to form a long-term goal for what we want to do with the parish.
Very good. Like I said, that seems appropriate. Like you were talking about, you got different people from different backgrounds who go to church there, whether they're young people, like you said, they're empty nesters, they're people who have lived in Houston a long time, the whole mix of everything. So that's great that you have that, and that you say you're getting feedback from people in the parish.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I know it's rewarding for you to be there in that same church that has had such an impact on your life, to be there and to be helping out that parish as the pastor. So, just want to recap here again. You're celebrating 10 years, your priesthood anniversary. You're going to do a mass and a reception, which is going to be on June the 6th, which is a Friday.
Friday.
So again, we're inviting the community to come out to All Saints Catholic Church, which is in the Houston Heights. You can come out the evening of Friday, June the 6th. 6 o'clock is mass. 7 o'clock is the reception afterwards. And I know a lot of people are looking forward, at least to shaking your hand and congratulating you in any case, Father Eli. So we really appreciate your being on here. Before we go, really quickly, just tell me about just the importance for praying for vocations and supporting all of our seminarians and our priests in our archdiocese.
Yes, so one of the privileges of being a priest is when we're assigned seminarians to our parish. And so over the past 10 years, I've had the privilege of mentoring seminarians to the priesthood. And so I think it's important that we pray as a community for young men to respond to the call to priesthood, to not be afraid, and I always encourage them to turn off all the noise and pay attention to how God is speaking to you, because we live in such a noisy world, and it's hard for people to hear God speak to them. And so in our parish and all the parishes that I've served at, we always include a prayer for vocations at every Mass. And so we pray for vocations, and we try to encourage vocations every time, anytime we encounter people, young adults, young people, to think about, where God is calling them, and to not be afraid.
Very good. Good reminder to pray for vocations. Love that tip, though, by the way, to, just get away, be in the silence, and to pray with God and allow him to have that conversation with you in the silence and getting away from, all the busyness of everyday life.
Yeah.
Father Eli, again, congratulations on 10 years of being a priest. We really appreciate it. Again, Father Eli Lopez, pastor of All Saints Catholic Church in the Houston Heights. We appreciate your being here, and we'll be praying for you.
Thank you.